Hey there, and welcome to my podcast, which at the time of recording this, I have not yet named. I'm still thinking about names, which, I really shouldn't be putting that much thought into, but I am, because, I don't know, if it's a boring name and somebody finds it, and right next to it there's like a really cool name, you're probably going to pick the really cool name over the boring name, and, yeah, so that's my 2 cents on names. But by the time anybody hears this, there will be a name. Let me know if it's good. Let my past self know if it's good. Anyway, this is the podcast where I talk about movies, I talk about my thoughts, and just really any random thing that comes to my mind. I really just wanted to think of a way I could share my opinions about movies that I see where I don't have to necessarily structure it in any way. Like, I used to make reviews on Instagram, or I'd have to type up little reviews, which, by the way, typing reviews on a fucking iPhone keypad is just a nightmare. So I stopped doing that for many reasons. And then a few years ago, I tried doing like YouTube movie reviews where I would try to cover certain points and I'd have it semi-scripted, and I mean, it sucked. So this is, I think, a good way for me to get my thoughts out about movies. And I think I'll make my best points when I'm just kind of spilling words out of my brain as I'm thinking about it. So yeah, that's my little introduction to what you're getting into here. If anybody is getting into it, please get into it, please. Yeah, so this episode, we are going to be talking about Ford versus Ferrari, which I just saw a couple days ago, and thought I'd talk about it.
Mr. Ford, Ferrari has a message for you, sir.
What did he say?
He said Ford makes ugly little cars in ugly factories.
It is directed by James Mangold. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's spelled Mangold, not mangled, like all fucked up. And as some of you may know, he directed the movie Logan and Wolverine. That's probably what most people know him for. I'm looking up what else he did right now. See if there's anything else. Wow. 3:10 to Yuma? I don't know. I'm sure some of you saw that on Netflix. You probably didn't watch the movie, but you saw it was there. What else? Oh, that's Heavy, Copland, Girl, Interrupted, Kate and Leopold, Identity, Walk the Line, that's something. Walk the Line with Joaquin Phoenix, the fucking Johnny Cash movie. Yeah. He directed that. So there you go. There's something else by James Mangold besides Logan and Wolverine. But Ford versus Ferrari stars Matt Damon, and it stars Christian Bale and John Lucas, the guy from American Psycho, who, judging from the two movies I've seen him in, which is Ford versus Ferrari and American Psycho, this boy is getting typecast as a snooty, selfish, greedy businessman who's like really condescending and smiley and fake all the time, and you just kind of want to punch him in the face. But, I think that's what both the movies that I've seen him in were going for. So, yeah. To keep things short, for those of you who want it short in terms of if I think it's good or not, yeah, Ford v. Ferrari is really good. And I'm not even a car person. I don't know really anything about cars. I know their colors, I know how they look. But there's enough character work and, good narrative elements that kind of keep you, or at least keep me, involved, which is really good. Especially during the racing scenes, in particular, where it's mainly Christian Bale in a car going really fast. It's really easy, I think, to lose somebody when you're doing that. Like, when you're filming those scenes of just prolonged action it's really easy as an audience member to just tune out for a bit because, I mean, there are important things in most action scenes that happen, but they usually come every once in a while. This, I thought, did a really good job of making sure there are things that you are constantly thinking about as the racing scenes are happening. You know, watching his RPM, which really doesn't sound interesting, but fuck, this movie makes RPM interesting. You know, watching his gear changes. This sounds really boring. I promise you it's not boring. But, you know, there's this whole thing where you're like, oh god, he's going so... Oh, just dropped my phone. Yay. You're like, oh god, is he gonna fuck up his car? Is he going way too fast? Like, if the guy's going 8,000 revs per minute, is he gonna fuck up his brakes? You know, there's really a lot of that. They do a good job in, like, test driving scenes kind of establishing the potential issues that would come with winning a race against Ferrari. Now, something I forgot to mention when I started this quote-unquote review is that in this podcast, I will start every kind of review with no spoilers, and then at some point, once I feel like I have to get into spoilers, I will let you guys know, or do my best to let you guys know when I'm going into spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers and you want to go see the movie for yourself, I don't ruin it for you, and you can stop listening when I tell you to. If you don't give a shit, keep listening. I don't know. So, I mean... That being said, I'm not going into spoilers yet because I just thought of more things I want to talk about. Fucking Matt Damon and Christian Bale, I think, are both in the bulk of a lot of Oscar conversations for, you know, predictions about Best Actor nominations. I believe Matt Damon is the credited leading role, so Matt Damon would be the one going up against possibilities like Joaquin Phoenix or Adam Driver or Robert De Niro, which, well, that sucks for Matt Damon, I guess, because he's good in this movie. I'll just say right now, I didn't think he was any Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker, or, I don't know, I heard great things about Robert De Niro in The Irishman. I haven't seen it yet because The Irishman is 3 hours and 29 minutes long. Let that sink in. Like, that's fucking excessive. That's like 3 movies, dude. You do not need to make a story that long. Anyway, yeah, so that's my thoughts on Matt Damon's Oscar chances. He was really good. And, you know I just compared him to Joaquin Phoenix in The Joker, which is really just a ridiculous comparison to make. But I made it. And, you know, not many performances, I think, ever are going to be on that same level. Like, I think what Joaquin Phoenix did in The Joker is kind of a once every so often sort of performance. And here I am talking about my thoughts on The Joker while I'm supposed to be talking about Ford v Ferrari. So, sorry about that, but that's what happens while I'm thinking aloud, or whatever the fuck this is. Standout in the movie is Christian Bale, for me. I think that's not a question. And Bale is going to be, I guess, in the supporting actor category, where, I mean, I think he's got a great chance in the supporting actor category for this movie. He's just so goddamn enjoyable. I talked about how in the racing scenes, the movie manages to keep you invested the whole time. A lot of that, besides the weird car porn I was talking about, which, by the way, if you are a car fan, this movie will probably be like Citizen Kane and The Godfather had a baby. I mean, there is some serious just car porn in this movie. So if you're a car person, see this movie and bring some tissues. Yeah, I know. Gross, right? Anyway, fuck, what was I talking about? I was talking about Christian Bale. He's just, I think the past few roles he's done that I've noticed have been just kind of like a kind of a big, tough American guy, not just Dick Cheney. I'm also talking American Hustle and, for that matter, Dark Knight too. If you really think American Psycho, also with Christian Bale's in that movie with John Lucas. So like Christian Bale's British, I think, British Australian, something like that. He has a fucking accent, so whatever. But he finally he plays like a really just British kind of sounding dude, and I don't mean that like, oh, he has an accent. I mean, he has an accent, but he's the kind of guy that uses a lot of British lingo that you would kind of see a caricature of a British guy do, and that sounds like a problem, but it isn't. It's really entertaining, and I think it really helps make Bale's character likable. But I think you really get attached to that character, so when you're watching him in these high stake races, it's just so good. I mean, he really helps keep it interesting. You get a little bit of his commentary as he's driving and as he's trying to pass people, and his little snarky comments toward them, because surprise, surprise, if you saw the trailer and if you really know much about Christian Bale characters, his character is kind of an asshole. And I'll tell you what, I would way rather watch an asshole during a racing scene than some, good old nice guy. So, there's that. But yeah, Bale was really good, and now hopping into spoilers, because I'm talking about Christian Bale in that movie, and there's some spoilery things that really kind of help with his character. But yeah, so if you're tuning out now, my thoughts are see this movie. If you're wondering if you should or should not see Ford v Ferrari, my verdict is see it, definitely. But now, spoilers. It's pretty much hinted at throughout the entire movie that Christian Bale's character is gonna die. Ken Miles, that's the character's name. I'm talking about how good this movie is, and it's taking me 12 minutes and 25 seconds to remember his name. His name's Ken Miles in that movie. But he's it's hinted at a lot that he's gonna die. There's a good amount of foreshadowing with, there's a part where he's test driving a car and he crashes the car and the car fucking explodes. But he's a race car driver, so he's wearing a fireproof suit, and he gets out of the car. And then there's like a conversation with one of the car engineers and Christian Bale's son, and the car guy's like, hey, it's not about how big the fire is or the fact that he's in a fire. It's whether or not you can get out of the car in time, because your suit's fireproof. So like, you're not going to be worried about burning. You're worried about suffocating. And, at that moment, you're kind of like, okay, why are you saying this? Are you justifying why he survived? Or are you hinting at something? I'm so sorry I just did that to you. But yeah. And then there's another shot later that, I mean, most audience members probably won't pick up on, but, if you know a thing or two about, cinematography tricks or directing tricks, or like you've seen enough movies, there's, and even if you haven't, me saying this to you, it's gonna sound very obvious, like, yeah, I could get that, I know you're not special. Yeah, I know, but I don't know. There's a shot which really kind of gave away that he's gonna die, and also I know this is a true story, so I mean, I didn't know the true story going in. If you know the true story, obviously you know he's gonna fucking die. But there's a shot where it's Christian Bale, and he just has like this good conversation with somebody, and you're like, yeah, Christian Bale. And then he turns around, and there's like two headlights brightly facing him in the background, and he turns around, and like everything's black except for the headlights, which are lighting up everything, and he walks into the headlights. He's walking into the light. And it's at that moment you're kind of like, okay, well, he's a goner. But, yeah, so he wins the Ford v Ferrari race, right? He kind of wins the Ford v Ferrari race. Let me retract that statement. He won, but not technically, because there were two other Fords, and Ford's main deal was to beat Ferrari, but John Lucas's little snobby corporate business guy was like, he's not business-like, and I don't like him, so I don't want him to win and be the face of Ford's victory over Ferrari, so he, sabotages his victory, and he's like, all right, Christian Bale. His name, again, it's not Christian Bale in the movie. It's Ken Miles. Could you imagine if his name was Christian Bale? They just gave up, and they were like, we're just going to fucking call him Christian Bale. I've said Christian Bale so many times during this podcast, but there's a part where they're like, okay, Ken Miles, you are 4 minutes ahead of the second place person. We want you to slow down and drive perfectly in a symmetrical line with the other two Fords and have you all cross the finish line at the same time. So it's a cool statement that yeah, we're Ford, but really it's just the guy not wanting Ken Miles to win. And there's this, you don't think he's going to do it because Ken's a really selfish character, but he actually takes you by surprise and he does it. And they all cross the finish line together. And then, since they all crossed at the same time, the Ford business guys were like, oh, well, actually, this other dude crossed the finish line an inch before Ken Miles did, so he wins. And so Ken Miles is robbed of his victory, but everybody in the crowd at the time of the true story and in the audience, everyone knows Ken Miles really won the race. So you feel happy for him, and then they're like, okay, Ken, we'll build another car for some other time, and you'll win the race next time you try it. You're that good. So they're testing out a new car. He's really happy. He's revving the car really hard. He's driving really fast off into the sunset. More foreshadowing. And then he just kind of swerves off the road and blows up. And then they say, he didn't get out of the car this time. And you're like, whoop, he's dead. Yeah, that's because he is actually dead. Christian Bale actually died. I mean, the actor himself died when they were filming this movie. Christian Bale died for this role, and obviously I'm full of shit. I don't know, if there's anybody gullible out there, I thought I'd give you a heart attack for 5 seconds. Yeah. So it was a well done death. I really thought. It's really common for movies to be super fucking melodramatic about, deaths, and I'm not really saying that as a bad thing because it's effective and it gets people to cry where, you have, I think if your typical movie was doing this, if James Mangold wasn't doing this and you were just having, average director number 42 directing Ford v Ferrari, there'd be this whole thing where Bale drives off the road and then everything goes in slow motion and you see his eyes and they fill up with tears and some music starts, but then it goes quiet so you can hear people in the theater choking up. And then there's an explosion. And I am probably making all of you very uncomfortable, so I'm going to back away from the mic. But yeah, that's how I think most movies would do it. They would really just kind of break reality for it. And it would, a lot of times when movies kill off a character, it kind of feels like the filmmakers are then strangling you and are just kind of like, fucking cry, he's dead. Like, be fucking sad. We're a good movie because we made you cry. But Ford v Ferrari did not do this. It was very just kind of abrupt. Like, it's just this wide shot of them watching his car from a distance, and then it just kind of swerves off the road and explodes. And then it just cuts to people talking about him later. It was well done. It was... I think maybe a big reason for that, too, is because I don't think you're supposed to feel horribly awful about his death. I think you're supposed to feel kind of like somewhat that it should be celebrated, that he accomplished really everything he wanted to accomplish before he died. And he died, doing what he loves. Literally. Well, I guess not super literally, because he died crashing, and I don't think he loves crashing, he loves racing, but you know what I mean. But I think the filmmakers knew that you're supposed to just kind of be like, he's an awesome character, probably an awesome guy in real life. I keep talking about this movie like it's fiction. But you're also supposed to be like, you know what? But I salute this guy because, god damn it, he was good. So yeah, I have now spent at least 10 minutes talking about Christian Bale in this movie. So obviously the best thing about Ford v Ferrari is Christian Bale. Matt Damon, he was good. You root for the guy. He's... God damn, I'm just comparing him to Christian Bale in my head. But yeah, you're rooting for him to do good. He's given the pressure by the Ford company directly to be like, you're going to build a car and you're going to find a racer that will beat Ferrari, or we fire you and everybody who you've ever looked at with your eyes. So it's a lot of pressure on him, and he's best buds with Ken Miles, Christian Bale's character, and so it's obviously really problematic when Ford, who's the very firm boss of Matt Damon, kind of telling him to drop Miles and not involve him. And you really kind of see his character make the decision like, no, I'm putting my friend above my job. And I think that really helped with his character development, made him a lot more likable. But yeah, I mean, they really dive deeper into Ken Miles. I'm surprised he's not the leading role, but he ain't. Matt Damon, you're still awesome. Like fucking Matt Damon's listening to this shit. I think Matt Damon is awesome. He's great in the movie. I really like him in the movie. Can't say that enough. But yeah. Let's see. What else is there to talk about? Let me just say, for those of you who I still have paying attention, this isn't like a racing movie like I may have made it seem. It's really not like a movie about racing. It is about, it's about these guys working toward a deadline trial. I can hear my roommate coming. This is going to get interrupted in a sec. What was I talking about? Okay, it's not a race car movie as much as it is like a drama about Ken Miles and Carroll Shelby. Carroll Shelby's the Matt Damon character. I know. And this is not meant to be an insult to the real life Carroll Shelby, but let's be honest, Carroll Shelby is an extremely feminine name. Those are two female names, and Matt Damon, the manly man, is rocking both of them. But yeah, it's about these two characters. It's a drama about how they're having to cope with all this pressure from Ford, how it screws up their lives at home, how it screws up Ken's family life a lot, how it messes up a lot of Carol's friendships, and it's about priorities and, just doing what you love doing the right thing. So, it's more than just like, oh, look at these guys going super fast in their cars and pumping gas. I don't know what pumping would be. I don't know why I fucking said that word. Jesus. Okay. I'm not even gonna continue that train of thought. That just ended so hard, so terribly. Sorry about that, guys. So sorry. Yeah. It's not just about racing. It's not just about car lingo and engines and, revs per minute and all that technical shit. It's primarily a character drama, and I feel really bad that I'm almost a half hour into this ramble and I've just gotten to that now. But yeah, and I think that primarily is the beating heart of the movie, is that drama, that struggle. That, and of course, just Christian Bale is also the beating heart of the movie. If I haven't made that clear enough by now, that is what I think. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about this movie. And you're probably thinking, that's all you have to say? This is a fucking half hour. And I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised too. I thought this was going to be like 15 minutes, but good God, I went on so many tangents. But yeah, that was my thoughts on Ford v Ferrari. If you stayed through this, you either don't plan on seeing it, or you do want to see it, but you just don't care too much about it being spoiled. So if you're here and are open to suggestions, I would say go see Ford v Ferrari. It's really good. You're gonna see it in several Oscar categories. And yeah, thank you very much for listening. Thank you especially if you've made it all the way here. Good for you. And I mean, even if you were multitasking, I am very grateful for you. Thank you for existing. Yeah, and stay tuned for future podcasts. I've seen way too many movies this year. I've seen 40 different theatrical releases for 2019, so I have plenty to talk about. I'm not going to talk about all those. I'm talking about what I've seen starting from this point. So yeah, tune in, get some, get my thoughts. Please listen to my thoughts so I don't feel like I'm shouting into a empty void, because that's basically me when I'm commenting on the internet. This is my step up from there. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for getting this far if you did. Yeah, tune in next time. Good fucking bye. I did not need the fucking